Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia Greenberg, and welcome to the club 2023. On behalf of the club and our member partner company, Broadsign, thanks for being here with us today. For those of you who are joining us in person, it's so good to see faces in person. And for those of you virtually, hello. Glad you can join us. We hope you're all having a great start to the new year. And just so you know, we're committed to keeping this community connected for the foreseeable future through the virtual clubhouse. So no matter where you are, you can always be part of what we have going on with our hybrid content. This is our Conversation with series. It's very popular. And our Ad Club board chair, Rick Song, the GM of Digital Client Solutions at Nielsen, leads these amazing conversations with thought leaders in our membership about pressing topics of the day, but also what's really great about it is they deep dive into some of their personal stories. And Sophie has some great ones too, so we're excited to have her. Sophie is the Senior Vice President of North American Whiskeys at Diageo, which is the coolest title in marketing, I think. Before we start, we want to make sure that we encourage those of you who are not members, and I know who you are, so I'm going to talk to you afterwards, to join us because we provide so many solutions to help educate, celebrate, and empower our community. And if you wanted to do that, talk to those of us here, or just go to theadvertisingclub.org. Super easy. You can register right online. And we're just getting started with the new year. We have more coming up this year in the first quarter. We have conversations with Cadillac's Melissa Grady will be here on February 22nd. And we have MasterCard Cheryl Gurin with us on March 15th. So if you haven't signed up for that, do so. And if you're socializing content, use our tag at AdClubNY. And listen, we are a volunteer organization. We can't do the things that we do without our planning committees, so we encourage you to get involved because it's content for members by members, right? And also those who support us, right? So supporting us here is Broadsign. We have Mike Hammer with us, and we also have John Dolan, the VP Global Head of Media Sales. So come on over.
Thanks.
It's for you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alicia. For those of you who may not be familiar, Broadsign is a leader in the digital out-of-home space. We operate globally and have the software that powers about 70% of the world's screens. So we're the ad server for the vast majority of all those media owners so many of you activate on a regular basis. And we connect our buy-side partners through our SSP, which is called Broadsign Reach to the sell side. Reach is integrated into over 30 DSPs globally. And we also own and operate our own DSP, Broadsign Ads, which helps to remove a lot of the friction in the omnichannel buying process and also serves as a point solution digital out-of-home platform. So we're elated to be here sponsoring today's event. And with that, I'll give a little video here for how Broadsign lights up the world. Thank you. Thank you all so much. And with that, I would like to bring up to the stage Rick Song and Sophie Kelly. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. So excited to have Sophie Kelly here with us today. If you don't know, Sophie, actually, when we launched this series, my predecessor, Lee's here somewhere. Where is he? Am I missing? Oh, of course. He's missing my shout out while he's talking while we're on stage. That's nice, Lee. Anyway.
Busted.
Yeah, totally busted. Sophie was gracious enough to actually do this when we were in the pandemic, when we launched this series in a virtual environment. So we're happy to have you back now that we're actually live at the club. So thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
So we always like to kick off these sessions to give our membership an idea of who you are, right? Because I think everyone can read your bio and see that you've had an extensive career on the creative side, right? From agencies like Leo Burnett, Strawberry Frog, JWT, CEO of Barbarian Group, right? And then the last, how many years?
6.5.
6.5 years.
At
Years at Diageo. But before we get to your transition to the brand side, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your journey into advertising.
Yeah, I guess I came across advertising when I was working in hospitality in Sydney, and we had to go in and brief these people on some sort of magazine campaign, if you can believe that, for the Intercontinental. And I remember walking in to Low Lintas and thinking, this is just a really cool place. This looks very fun and very cool. I got to work out how to work here. So then I became a media assistant. So I started in media. And that was back in the time where we would send telefaxes across and I would mark the spots that we had bought to go on the television. Yeah, it was real fun. Anyway, so I started in media and was in media actually for a long time and then made the jump to account management when media and creative separated back in the day, so I'm really aging myself. I think one of my claims to fame when I was in media was working on behavioural targeting with P&G, which was pretty amazing at that time because we moved from just efficiency to behavioural targeting. And then I went into the account side of the business, and the rest is kind of history. Decided that I wanted to work internationally, and it was actually with clients like Kellogg, Reckitt Benckiser, and Diageo, in that time was called UDVI, that I got the experience to go to Asia, to go to London, and then actually it was with Diageo, believe it or not, that I landed in New York with JWT. So spent about 7 years working across their brands globally and in the US, and then wanted to do something different. And I remember having a conversation with Benjamin Palmer where he said, why don't you come and work with us in this digital agency? And I said, well, I don't know anything about digital. Like, I don't know what are you talking about? I don't think I'm right. You're a founder. You want to do it your way. And then the rest is history. I went and it was what I always talk about, which was a fantastic give-give relationship where I learned so much, and together we got to kind of round out what the agency did and its offerings, and turned into a pretty strong digital agency. I think Gary Vee always says it was really annoying when we would pitch against you, which I think is really funny now because look at his success. So lots of fun on the creative agency side I have had, and been given so many opportunities, which is why I love coming and working with the club.
So having said that, what did you enjoy most about the agency side? Because you spent a good portion of your career before the last 6.5 years at Diageo.
The agency side, well, there's always some problem you've got to solve, isn't there, guys? Like, it's never boring, never dull. No, on a serious note, I think one of the gifts you have when you're working in an agency is the fact that you get to work across so many different types of businesses, right? And learn the way they go to market, what's important to communicate about their product. And I think that if you're doing it right, you're always, or mostly, the most exciting part of a client's day, right? Because they are expecting you to bring added value, different thinking, and show them things in culture that they haven't seen Yeah. So I think the sort of intensity of always be living in culture, always be thinking about what's coming and what's new, and always be thinking on the businesses you're working on, how you actually connect those brands in the most powerful way with culture to actually result in sales. So I think the variety is amazing when you're on the client side, and the creativity, and just sort of the being so close and in touch with culture.
Well, you also had a few different perspectives from the agency side too, right? You've had multiple jobs, right? Not just one lens, creative necessarily, but media and account management. So probably gives you a very full-rounded view into the business, which also was probably why Diageo said, okay, you should come work for us. How has that transition been, and how are you enjoying now, working on the client side? Yeah,
look, the transition's been fantastic. I mean, I remember when I left Barbarian, there was quite a few news stories about it. Not the most positive either, but anyway, that's a whole conversation about dealing with change in your career. But I remember when James Thompson, who was a CMO, called me. He said, "What are you doing with your life?" And I said, "Not really sure." He said, "Why don't you come run our whiskey business?" And I thought, well, that's going to be weird, isn't it? I don't even drink whiskey. But I do now. I can tell you, I'm quite the expert. But the transition was fantastic, because one of the things I always like to talk about is the fact that every job, for me at least, and I feel very privileged to have had this experience, has been a learning experience. When I went from sort of JWT to more digital-focused agencies, and then going client side, was really great, because what they were looking for was transformation, getting creativity at the heart of the way we were activating and around the whiskey business. And what I learned was supply, going to market with innovation, commercialization, things that had not been front and center for me. So, first 18 months, massive learning experience. I mean, I remember landing, it was funny, the head of innovation at the time said, "It's really cool how we hired Sophie, and now she's spending the majority of it. We hired her for her creativity, and now she's spending the majority of her time with supply." And I was like, but it's fascinating, because when you work in the whiskies business, you've got to sort of forecast 10 years out, because you're dealing with aged liquids, a variety of different liquids to get to the brands that we have. So, what I would say is it was yet again a decision, because I was going to learn different skills.
Well, and that's a good point, because the other part of that transition is that on the brand side, you do have that pressure, right? The lens does change, so supply does become more, front and center. And to that point, the elephant in the room, the looming macroeconomic environment, right? And you and I were chatting about, the pressure, the scrutiny in a downturn to stay creative. To quote you, to understand how hard the money is working, right, as a brand marketer. So how are you achieving that, as you, I'd say, what is your approach to achieving that, given the looming macroeconomic environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of crazy, right? Because we pandemic, and now we're in a potential recession. Looking at business today, and looking at what you traditionally do in business is you forecast by looking back at data and adding something to it. Obvious, right? Well, looking back on the last 3 years is really difficult to get the patterns for the future. And then with inflation, there is a lot of stress on business to actually be more and more effective. So I think when that happens, you're looking across the business, whether it be your advertising or your comms or your media or the type of content you're creating or just your products, simply the glass, the corks, the liquid, every single part, shipping is going through massive inflationary exaggeration right now. So the temptation is for everybody to start to say, look at everything through the lens of ROI only, and to question things that might feel more noble or more purpose-driven. And I think that what we have to do as marketers and creators, of which you all are, is to be always thinking about the value that we are creating, right? And how we articulate that. Because the beauty of marketing is actually, I think, creating growth beyond what growth we can already see, so incremental growth and value that other people can't see by using creativity.
And to that point, you know, when we started these sessions, we always identify a great quote at the end of the talk, but we actually had one for Sophie in our prep talk. So to your point on creativity, you had a great quote that said, transformation needs creativity and disruption. So talk about what that statement means to you.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think you asked me at the end, but I'll kind of say it now. One of my favorite quotes is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. So I kind of feel that when you're thinking about driving value and driving growth, you need to look at how you are going to do something differently to what I call hack attention and get incremental growth off of that action. So, you know, I genuinely believe that innovation and creativity can give way to growth in a different kind of way. And I think that, you know, it doesn't. I think that when you create things that get disproportionate attention, you are doing it in a more effective way than you sometimes are by just playing the efficiency game.
And I know growth to you is not just, you know, linear monetary growth or revenue growth per se, right? You talk a lot about, I know ESG is very near and dear to your heart, and purpose-driven marketing.
Yes.
And that growth also can mean social impact, right? And I know under your leadership you've taken strides in the area of ESG to make social impact. You want to talk about a few examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually if we pivot into sort of purpose-driven marketing, because there's a temptation when the economic environment is so hard to actually look at taking costs out and not taking the leap on purpose-driven work, because it can be seen as more noble and not have the ROI of precision marketing or something like that, right? My personal belief is it's a combination of both that you need. But if you talk about something like purpose-driven marketing, right? I think the Angel City Football Club work that we did for Johnny Walker is a great example of taking a brand's purpose, which is, you know, all about collective progress and representing first and pushing people forward, and landing that purpose in the sponsorship of Angel City Football Club, right, which is female soccer club. In LA, you may or may not be aware of it. But doing a sponsorship with them that is not just about giving them money so that the brand appears in the stadium, although the brand does appear in the stadium. It is about the fact that the sponsorship deal that we did with Angel City Football Club has a percentage of the money that we put out there goes towards paying it forward for young female sports entrepreneurs, right? Completely different kind of sponsorship sports proposal from a brand. But then you say, how are we going to activate that brand? And what is the marketing that goes along with that? And I think we've got a really cool example of it that the guys are going to play you. But what we did was we said, let's bring our creators who work with the brand, Brittany Howard and Tia P, together to create an anthem for Angel City Football Club that can be played when they walk on the field, because women's teams don't have anthems the way men's teams do. So rather than doing straight ads, of which we had a lot of them, you know, we had our Strong Needs Strong cocktail in the stadium, we had our Viz running around the stadium, but what we actually did, which was even more powerful, was gave them something that they play to hype their team up. They play in the stadium every time they play, and it is something that they own, right, and will never give up. So I've got a little video on that to explain that, and I think when you talk about creativity, disruption, and transformation, it's a really good example of how you bring together some simple marketing tools, right? Get drinks into the stadium that are branded, get the brand into the stadium, but doing it in a different way that has purpose at the heart of it versus just sales.
Great. So should we take a look at the video? Let's do it.
Yes, beautiful people. Do you know what's better than putting on for your city? Is your city putting on for you? Yeah, the city putting on for you. Yeah, see the real, recognize the truth. Yeah. And now you, and now I'm running with the angels. And now I'm running with the angels. as diamonds, we out here shining. We keep walking through adversity. We busting through your glass ceilings, what a wonderful feeling. Making history and it will repeat. Ha. Let's go. Your man-made rules don't apply to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Our dreams turned into realities. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I give blood, sweat, and tears my everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 'Cause you can't spell power without we. And now I'm running with the angels. I ain't never coming back. Now I'm running with the angels. I'm moving for that higher ground, higher ground. Welcome to LA. You know we don't play. Go out every day. Welcome to LA. You know we don't play. Go out every day. Yeah.
So you kind of get the drift. But what was pretty cool was when they had their first game and these two came out with the marching band and sang that whole thing, and then you had the whole entire activation. So I think that's an example of how work with artists, different communities, bring people together to create real assets that have meaning and longevity and purpose right at the heart of them.
Is that tied to your partnership with United Masters?
Oh, so United Masters is another great example of doing.
The CMO is over there, by the way.
Yes,
Chaucer
Chaucer Barnes. And so
Thanks-
is
thanks for
Damien
coming.
from Anomaly over here. Does
Right,
most of my work.
sorry.
So good fan club going on here. And now also board members in the art club, right? Yes, good giving back. Thank you. So yeah, United Masters is an awesome example of, I think, disruptive decision and disruptive sponsorship that is just a really good business decision and also is doing good in the world. So Chaucer will do a better job of this, but basically United Masters is about representing underrepresented music talent and getting them visibility and getting their careers going, giving them mentorship and disproportionate opportunities that they may not have if they're not in the community. What's awesome about that for us is when you think about ESG, which is where we started this conversation, is purpose-driven ESG, is part of what we want to do is to really push an inclusive and diverse agenda at Diageo across our suppliers, in the way that we make our work and in who we work with. So it was fantastic to become like a founding sponsor of United Masters. And I remember when we started it, we were like, okay, so how are we going to activate it? Because it's not as simple as, oh, we're making an ad and these people are in it and this is the message. It was about actually infusing the artists within the community of United Masters into our talent, into our storytelling, into our advertising and into the company. And I can say sort of a year on, it has been exceptionally successful. And I'm not allowed to show it, but next week at the Grammys, we will be actually, I think, like next Thursday, we will be releasing a film from Bullet, which is all about the frontier, okay, and what it means to be a pioneer and living on the frontier of culture. And this is a fantastic example of bringing Anomaly and United Masters together and saying, we got to put kind of meaning into this, what it means to be a frontier whiskey. And so they brought to the table Jay Ivey, who is an amazing spoken word artist. And I can't tell you anything more because then I'll lose my exclusive release when the thing goes out. And my team was like, don't do it. And I'm renowned for doing this kind of stuff. Anyway, at the heart of that program, and I can tell you this bit because it released before December, was not just using talent to tell their story in a really beautiful way, which hopefully you'll agree with me when you see it, but also about like paying it forward and saying, okay, for all the spoken word artists on United Masters platform, let's get Jay Ivey, who's a very successful to mentor them and get their interpretation, right? So I think what you're getting the theme of is that, I&D and green to glass and educating people on positive drinking is at the heart of the work that we're doing. And when we do something, we don't just talk about it, we actually put a mechanic at the heart of it, which actually is an action and does something to bring people along and to push people forward.
Super, super impressive. And staying along the track of ESG and purpose-driven marketing, sustainability has also been an initiative you've been driving, for your brands. Eco Totes, I think is I think I'm saying that correctly. Can you talk a little bit about what Eco Totes is?
Yeah. So I think one of the reasons that I love working at Diageo is our in society work is amazing. Yeah, and it's put right up there next to performance, purpose, and performance, and that's driven by our CEO, Ivan, who actually just received became a knight for the work in this area. But sustainability and grain to glass is really important to us. So if you look at, take Bulleit, right? So first carbon neutral distillery in Kentucky. Look at Crown Royal. We're building another distillery which will be carbon neutral. That work extends itself right the way through the brand. And if you think about Bulleit, we have kind of a load of ways we go to market that are much more environmentally friendly. We also work with American Forests, where we plant trees in order to replenish kind of the white oak that we're dependent on. And then, what we're doing at the moment is we've done so much work in what I call Scope 1 and Scope 2, which is all the natural resources that we depend on. What we're really pushing into right now is thinking through reimagining packaging, thinking through how we serve drinks, and how we think about circular economy and how we can disrupt that. And Rick talks about EcoTote. This is a partnership we're working with where basically you don't need to send all the product to certain locations. You refill and you recycle on site, so you're far more sustainable. So we're doing a lot of trials in trying to crack different go-to-market, different packaging, and new models for refill and recycle.
Is that setting a tone for the company? Is everyone kind of following your lead on that? Because that seems like a fantastic way for brands to be involved.
It is huge. In fact, I'd say we've got a massive investment in a load of us just went through a course which was really difficult. I had to go back to school for 3 months, and I think everyone heard a lot about it actually, because I was like, wow, this is really hard, writing essays again. But yeah, it's a massive investment across Diageo. I think what's happening is you're seeing us really get a bigger understanding of what it means to be better with natural. It's about sort of restore, replenish, and reuse for us. If I take the Bulleit brand, right, we've got the carbon neutral distillery. We then have right the way through our marketing and partnerships, American Forest partnership, where we're planting trees and replenishing trees right the way around the country. And then on the other side of it, what are we relying on? Well, we're relying on bartender and the trade. So how are we actually helping and giving back to them? So right now, with a charity called Another Rally, we're working through how to get trials up for bartender healthcare. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's super impressive.
Really big. And if I go back to creativity, solving problems, transforming business, this is marketing. This is marketing, and it's for good, and it's disruptive, and it's creating disproportionate love amongst the trade and in the communities that rely on that buy our products.
Super impressive, super inspiring, quite frankly. Want to switch gears for a moment. One of the things we try and do for the membership is let them give them a chance to understand your leadership approach. And as you can tell, it's probably really dull working for Sophie, really low energy, I would imagine. But in all seriousness, your team says that you inspire the dreamer in everybody.
Well,
so how do you do that?
That's what I try to do on my good days. Sometimes I think I do other things to them. They're
every
probably
day.
watching right now. They're going, yeah, sure, that's a good day. No, we have a fantastic process at Diageo where they really push us to work out what our purpose is. And I remember I was telling Rick the story. I was saying to my team, I think my purpose is like transforming business through creativity. I'm a disruptor. And they went, no, you inspire us to dream about things that we didn't think we could do. And again, if we go back to the beginning of the conversation, it's super tempting right now, or coming out of the pandemic with the recession, to be, like looking at what has worked and continuing to do that and being very conservative about things. And I think it is when you make big leaps and think about what's possible that you often get the best ideas and the most innovation. So, I try, unfortunately, to look at things and say, why would anybody care? Why would anybody be interested? What are we doing for them that's adding value to them? Or how are we making people feel? And, there's enough stuff in the world, and I believe that, doing the same thing over and over again is pretty monotonous. So I'm always looking for the space that is not the expected, I guess.
Which comes with the moniker of troublemaker.
Yes.
From what we understand.
Well, I don't like being told, well, this is the way we did it, so we should continue to do it like that. I'm like, why? I don't understand. I also think that when you have an innovative mindset, you are going to start to do things that challenge stuff. I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but we've gone into experimenting in Web3. So, how do you get that going in a big company? Particularly with all the conversation around it now, what's the benefit of it? And I think, what I like to do with my team, and they love it, is to look at culture and see where the biggest disruption's happening and where there's disproportionate noise. And normally it's around things you don't understand, yeah? And that, to me, is very energizing, because it's like, what's this about, right? So if I think about Web3, what we did with that is we just started a sprint of people within the company who were into it. Yeah? So I walked around and said, is anyone into this Web3 thing, NFTs, whatever? Got this group of people across finance, supply, legal, cross-brand, innovation together, and we just started to play, So, and that came from the thought that, we have the biggest rare and collectible spirits collection in the world at Diageo. We're very privileged. And we normally kind of release those things into certain channels with certain retailers, and they're allocated and everybody scrambles. And then if you get one, you might resell it on eBay for heaps more money, and no one gets the benefit of that. And I looked at what was going on with NFTs and different business models, and looked at BlockBar and said, wouldn't this be a disproportionate way to kind of sell our luxury products? And wouldn't we capture a new consumer? And wouldn't we learn a lot? And that led us to doing things like releasing Johnny Walker Ghost and Rare on BlockBar. And I remember being at Code with Avery from Vayner and thinking that we were going to release this on BlockBar, and I was getting on the plane to come back to New York, and I thought, I'll buy one when I get back, right? I don't know, I've got to work out how to buy it, and that blows my mind still. But and I get off the plane, and I wake up to text, and it's from Jamie Young, who's on our Johnny Walker team. He goes, sold out in 12 minutes, mate. And it was gone, right? Now, it didn't only sell out in 12 minutes, it sold out at I think it was $775 a bottle versus the $200 that it went to in the other one. But the better part about it is that attached to that sale was a beautiful NFT from Yvonne Natal, a AI artist who had done this impression of what the liquid in the bottle was around, and also a tutorial education on how the product was made by our head distiller, Jane Walker. So, this is an environment where you can test different business models, you can work with creators, you can bring value beyond the bottle to the experience. And the best part about it is that the creators get remunerated being involved in it, which I think is amazing in this space. And when it resells, and the life it has beyond the initial sale is tracked. capped, so everybody still gets the benefit of the sales. So, that was one way. No idea how that was going to work, right? But we got a group of people, some expert partners, and we gave it a go. So I don't know how we got down this track, but anyway, disruption and innovation, doing things you don't know how to do and learning from it is important.
It's fascinating, and I think it's fair to say you've come a long way since that initial conversation with Ben Palmer about understanding digital.
Well, I still don't understand Web3. There's so much to do.
Could have fooled me. On that note, when you think about this coming year, what are you most excited about? I mean, I know you're playing in many different, new platforms. I know you're in doing some stuff in shoppable video. Like, what are some of the things you can share with the membership that you're excited about?
The next 3 weeks is just an amazing period of time if you work in marketing and advertising, right? Because you got the Grammys, you got the Super Bowl, you got Oscars coming up, and I'm, really lucky to work in a business where Crown, Johnny, Bullet will all be activating in these amazing cultural moments. With Crown Royal, we were one of the first, we're the first spirits to participate in the NFL 6 years ago with our positive drinking water break platform, which still exists. And I think, last year we did kind of the big NFL deal where we took the platform of generosity to another level, where we did kick off with Crown, which was all about supporting hospitality and different people supporting game day post the pandemic. And we will release some pretty exciting stuff in the next 2 weeks, which is bang on that purpose from Crown Royal. So keep your eye out on that. I'm really excited about the impact we're going to create there. I think driving the notion of reimagining kind of packaging and what that feels like in our business around grain to glass and sustainability is going to be a really interesting challenge. So I'm psyched to sort of jump into that. And what else am I excited about? Just continuing to look for opportunities to really drive the purpose of our brands, connect them in culture in different ways, and create new experiences. I think, a lot of people feel that, Web3 and places like that are still a little tricky. I think we're going to see that continue to storm and norm and turn into something that brands can really offer unique experiences.
Do you think the Web3, the Web3 will be tabled or take a pause given kind of the looming economic environment?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think about how we activated at Art Basel, bringing physical and digital together, and I think this is about combining communities to actually make new experiences.
Very cool. So we're going to take questions live from the audience. So I think Alicia has so I'm going to ask one more question. And then also, Michael, I don't know, let me know if we're going to chime in some questions from the live stream as well. Before we jump to questions, so get your thinking caps on, and someone has to be the tough first question person, so get ready. We haven't talked about measurement at all. So how important is, in all the stuff we talked about, when you're going back?
Well, I love this because I was actually on with one of my favorite executives at Diageo this morning talking about things, and he said, at the end of the day, the marketing is only working if the performance is good, right, mate? And I went, that's right. So, but no, I mean, measurement's super important, right? So I just talked about some of the playing we're doing in Web3, but we have 3 different ways in: riding alongside and doing cultural collaborations like we did with Gift Goat, giving it. We have the business model part. You have got to put KPIs behind testing if you actually want to continue to drive innovation in your marketing.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, we have a fantastic central media team who are all about precision marketing. And, my belief is, and hopefully you'll see it in the way we activate around the Super Bowl, is you've got to do it all. To get the results, and you have to have KPIs against all of it, and you should be measuring it and going back and optimizing all the time.
Very cool. All right, we're ready for our first question. Alicia has a live mic up. Someone's...
Speak into the mic.
Just tell us who you are, where you're from.
Sure. Hi, Rick. Hi, Sophie.
Hi.
I'm Jerry Canning with National Cinemedia. Thanks for coming today. This was a lot of fun. Could you talk a little bit about audiences, and specifically young audiences? My impression is that young audiences have been growing in terms of their adoption of whiskey in the past decade or so. Is that the case? And how do you think about and engage with specifically that younger Gen X audience?
Gen X audience. I think if I can take a step back and answer it in relation to whiskey and growth, what we're seeing in the category is an enormous amount of growth, and we've been seeing it for the last 6, 7, 10 years, and it is forecast to continue. I think what's driving that growth is a lot of it. The fun fact about the whiskey category is it has the longest tail of any spirits segment, yeah? So many craft entries every single year, which makes it very interesting, and people are coming into it all the time to explore different kind of expressions of whiskey, whether it be cast finishes or flavoured whiskey, which is a fantastic example of bringing in new audiences into the category, recruiting different drinkers in. Flavoured whiskey is recruited in more multicultural and female drinkers than so if you look at Crown Royal and you think about the flavours that we've entered into with apple and vanilla and salted caramel, they're bringing in a different consumer to deluxe, which I think is really important. So the way I describe the recruitment of different audiences is quite simply about different expressions of what people are looking for, and they're looking for a lot of variety and a lot of different expressions of liquids across whiskey.
The other phenomenon, I think, also for the more youthful generations, if you will, is the resurgence of the classic cocktails.
Oh yeah,
right?
Like how you serve it. So the old fashions, the penicillins, the margaritas, how it rides alongside of food and food trends. I mean, if you think about tequila, it's some of us, maybe older like me, remember tequila and think, oh, I don't know if and now you look at it, it's a craft cocktail that rides alongside some of the amazing cuisines that we really enjoy. So opening up occasions is really important. I also think that, and this comes full circle back to the beginning of our conversation, sorry if I'm skipping around too much, but purpose-driven and sharing values with your community is really important, okay? So the amount of times we get commentary on Bullet because of all the work we're doing with American Forest and with the trade is a big driver of recruitment. I mean, consumers today, I think it's 97% of them would choose brands that help them be more environmentally conscious or do good in the world. So having a really strong kind of foundation of inclusivity and diversity agenda and driving that through the way you activate, thinking about how you are having a positive impact on the climate is a huge influencer on purchase.
What a great message. I'm going to take one question from the live stream. From a career perspective, what is your suggestion for anyone who's interested in getting into marketing who doesn't have any experience?
Right. Well, so into marketing who doesn't have any experience. Well, get out there and network, attend things
Come to the ad
like
club.
the ad club and other things, and reach out on LinkedIn, ask to have conversations, put yourself out there. Think about showing up to different events and introducing yourself. I never did any networking till I was in I think it was Shelley's Alice who said, you've got to come to the girls' lounge. And I was like, what is a girls' lounge? And then I started networking, and it opens up a lot of suggestions to you. So I would say get out there, put your hand out, say, hi, this is what I'm interested in, and don't be afraid to start in any different part of the business to just get going.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think I learned a little bit later the lesson and the value of marketing at any stage in your career and what it can really have an impact in terms of where you take your career. So totally agree. Other questions from the audience live? Please let us know who you are, where you're from.
Hi, Sophie. Deacon Bell, out-of-home enthusiast.
I love the out-of-home.
Thank you. I actually recently moved back from Sydney, and looking at the international markets, interesting to hear kind of the similar Diageo lens from another market, but loved your comments on purpose-driven marketing. But was curious, a lot of people talk about kind of the 70-20-10 model, particularly when looking at budgets and how much you want to keep for experiential or testing, and also the connective from what your brief is and your ethos from client side to then agency to then supplier, and what either gets sometimes lost in the mix but also translates through and how you actually want that budget in the end to really deliver what that ethos is. Sometimes there's a breakdown in that, and just curious how you keep that, your words so true all the way through the process.
Yeah, so it's such a big question. And there are many people at Diageo and on my team that do a much better job of the 30, 15, 25 than I do. and they will be laughing right now because I can't even remember the ratios. Jason Acker, Gino O'Hara, I mean, amazing. They make... they land the creativity and the ideas in plans that deliver results. So I'm really fortunate. So the first answer is have the right people cross-functionally on your team to drive the right activity where it needs to get the results. My answer is I am always starting with the idea that I believe will do good and have social impact and get noticed in culture. That's what drives me. It's kind of where I get my energy from. So I start there because my belief is if you can get that, then you can fill a plan for performance and you will be getting disproportionate attention because you mean more to people.
Well said. Any other questions from the audience? Anyone?
It's interesting, that one, isn't it? That social change one.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, after Mike's question?
Yeah.
Sure. Hi, Mike Hammer with Broadsign. Curious to know, when you have friends over, what cocktails do you make?
Do you know, my friends are much better at making cocktails than I am. That's the dirty little secret, because maybe all of you will get a chance to come to the Diageo bar, but we have fantastic cocktail makers there, and they do such a great job, I don't have to think hard about it. Listen, it goes from kind of an old-fashioned it goes from on the rocks with different whiskey experiences, which I love, of which I have a lot of knowledge on now and access to an old-fashioned. It's one of my favorite cocktails, or a dirty martini. Yeah, so they're my go-tos. Actually, I kind of forgot to talk about tequila. I love Reposado tequila. Don Julio Reposado, brilliant. Samples, yeah.
Gina,
moderation is a big part of it.
Gina, Diageo bar, New Year's resolution. We said we got to make it there. But let's go to that live stream question. Is there of all the things you've discussed and shared, which are super inspiring, is there a social challenge that you want to address, outstanding with your brands that you haven't done yet?
I think continue to drive programs that support underrepresented artists or audiences and bring them forward. Continue to have fundings and grants and activation at the heart of all of that is really important. I think the big one that I talked about is how we actually really change the game on how we impact the climate agenda with our packaging and how we go to market is a big area that we want to get some tests up in, because if you think about our business, it's all about the bottle and the glass, and there are ways to really think about new models, recycle, refill, as well as using recycled glass for our innovation. So that one's really front and center.
Amazing. Well, I don't know about all of you, but I learned a lot today. Super inspired, all the great work you're doing across the board. So please, everyone, join me in thanking Sophie for being here.
Thank you, Rick.
And with that, for those of you live at the club, stick around, grab lunch if you haven't, and I'm going to pass it back to Alicia.
I really feel so fortunate, like we're in rare air here, getting to have this intimate conversation with Sophie. A little starstruck, not gonna lie. I also need a drink, so we'll have to work on that. But thank you all for being here. It is a true community, so we encourage you to have drinks with us, come out. Sophie talked about ideas and not, sticking with the norm. If you have ideas and you want to develop content or you want a platform, just reach out. Let's do this together. So thanks for all being here. We hope we see you here for Melissa Grady, Cadillac on February 22nd, right? I hope I have that right. And just everybody stay healthy, safe, and cheers to all of you. Thanks so much.